Everyone is entitled to their opinion about the current Extinction Rebellion campaign, unless it is one of the following opinions. Oh, but didn't I see one of them wearing some clothes that might have been made out of plastics, and hasn't at some point one of them been on an aeroplane, and doesn't that make them terribly hypocritical? No. The idea that personal responsibility can solve the climate crisis is mythological. That's what the big corporations want to believe. BP invented the term carbon footprint. Sure, we can all do our bit, and great, good for you if you're doing some of those things that help. We might be able to delay the crisis a tiny little bit further, to extend the window which remains for doing something about this situation. But in order to solve the global crisis, we need the cooperation of governments, of global corporations and of global organisations. And in order to get that, we need everybody to be involved in the campaign, not only those people who've never used a plastic straw, because that is a stupid arbiter. It's like a ridiculously high level of who should be allowed to be involved. Secondly, oh, but aren't they inconveniencing people? Yeah. If you think that the inconvenience people are experiencing, being late for work and so on and so forth, is somehow more significant than the millions and millions of lives that are already being lost to climate change, and the millions and millions more that will be lost to climate change, and indeed the whole planet going, then you've totally misunderstood the scale of the problem. And at the same time, if you think that, well, why can't they protest by just doing something, you know, less disruptive and more peaceful and whatever? Have you actually made a list of all the times when they have done those things and plastered that all over your social media and gone on TV and radio and talked about that and written to your MP about that? No. Well, that's why they've had to do these things. And in fact, even now, when you look at the media, they're talking about, oh, they blocked the path of somebody trying to get to hospital, and they haven't covered. They got into the Shell headquarters. They took over Shell, one of the biggest polluters on the entire planet. They got in there. Thirdly, oh, well, we are doing enough. That just means you don't understand what's going on and you haven't understood how this thing works. And finally, that argument of like, oh, well, I just wish they'd, you know, I'm annoyed with them because they've upset me, because they're in my way, because they're causing disruption, all that kind of stuff. If what a protest is asking for is totally, totally reasonable, and indeed not just reasonable, but necessary for human life to continue on this planet, then the people being unreasonable are the ones not taking the action that's being called for. And in not doing so, they are making it necessary for people to go out and protest. And so the people who have delayed your journey to work, or whatever you believe was absolutely vital about your day, the people responsible for that are the people in charge. Boris Johnson, the people who actually run this country, they need to take action, because their behaviour is disrupting our lives, firstly by forcing Extinction Rebellion protesters to take increasing action, and secondly by leading us all down a path that will ultimately kill all of us. This is no longer about fighting for rights, fighting for equality, fighting for justice, fighting for any of that, much as those are terribly important things that I want to talk about. This is about fighting for whether life on this planet continues to exist. So it's the most important fight that any of us will ever be in. And I was very proud to be a very small part of it on Saturday. See you next week.
Thank you so much for what you're doing, and we're all here with you day in and day out.